Hello everybody. Today we're going to be going over a team project management system that I set up here that models a lot of the workspaces that I'm building for my clients and how we keep their teams organized through different time zones throughout the world, doing different projects and tasks all asynchronously, and giving you a great way to view that data, to make informed decisions at a glance without needing to message a ton of people. So let's get into that. This is the system we're going to be building out, equipped with the new Notion charts feature, where we can integrate our existing databases to display tasks visually, or basically any data type, essentially. We can display visually, and it has been amazing for getting a high-level overview of everything at a glance, because sometimes there's things you can see in these charts that it's just harder to conceptualize when you're just looking at raw data in tables. But over here we have the different teams operating in our business, and if we open them up, we can see the projects that are going into that. If we open these projects up, we can see the tasks that are going into that. So everything rolls up into each other, essentially. And on this main dashboard page here, we can see obviously the data visualized, the team progress with these bar charts showing the progress of the project as a whole. And I'll be showing you guys how to build each and every part of this. We'll essentially be replicating this entire thing from scratch, as well as the Kanban board view of all of the projects, and then the task overview by employee. And all of these views are customizable to your liking. This is just a particular set of views that I think will be helpful for remote teams working throughout the world. So let's get building. So we have this blank page here. I just put a divider in at the top of the heading, and what we're going to start to do is space down and create a page. This page is going to be our data, and this is where all of the master or global databases are going to be stored. And I always use that icon for my databases page. So the first database we are going to create is going to be tasks. So they're all going to roll up into each other, so we're going to do it in that order. And we're going to create a table. So now what we're going to do is first change this to a status property, and I'm going to add a in progress tag as blocked, because if there's anybody who ever is stuck at something, we're going to want to be able to identify that right away. We're also going to do an assigned to property, and in the example that I showed, it's going to be a select property, because I don't have that many people inside this workspace to be able to showcase that, but it works the exact same way if you're going to use people, at least for the charts and all of the groupings and whatnot. So next we are going to add a due date property, and then we'll add the relations into it as soon as we get the other databases in there, because we don't have anything to relate it to at the moment. And we're going to create a checkbox property, and this is going to be labeled archive. I always create an archive system even if we have complete, because sometimes we're going to want to see things that are done and review them before we go ahead and just get rid of them and dismiss them once they're complete, because it's helpful to review people's work, keep a culture of accountability. So next we're going to move on to create our second database. That is going to be projects. We're going to do the same thing, and I always use the same icons for the same types of data that I'm storing, because off the top of my head it just makes it easier to see exactly what it is just from the icon. So now that we have projects database table set up, we're going to change this again, as we did with tasks, to status property, and we're going to add the same option in progress to blocked. We're going to make that red. We're also going to add a relation, which is going to be the tasks database that we just set up. We are going to do show on tasks. We're going to label it project, and this one can be tasks. I'm also going to change this icon just because it just keeps everything clean and aesthetic, and I think that's important if you want people to adapt and use the workspace that you're building them. If it's not pretty, then people are going to be less inclined to use it. So I'm also going to add a date property. We're going to label this timeline, as well as an assigned to property, which is just a people property. So now that we have assigned to, we can create one more property, and this is going to be our progress bar. So we're going to use a roll up here, and I'm going to use an icon that I always use for showing progress bars and projects. And it's very simple. We're just going to click on the relation that we have, tasks, the property. We want to get the status, and we want to calculate the percent of the group that is complete in a bar. And it doesn't really matter what color we show it, but in the example, obviously everything was blue. Awesome. So now we are going to, one last thing, almost forgot. Just like we did with tasks, we are going to create a checkbox and give it an archive property. This way, everything that we create, we can archive into storage and review it later if we need to. And then the last database, of course, I forgot the icon, which of course is going to be the hammer. And the last database we have is Teams. Gonna add the icon first this time so we don't forget. And do table once again. Alright, this one is going to be a little bit simpler. There's a little bit less moving parts with this. So the first thing we're going to do is add a relation to projects. You show on projects, team, and projects. Give it, you guessed it, the hammer icon. And we can do another roll up just like we did with tasks, but rolling up into teams. Select projects, same thing. We can select the, I am just realizing that this is the wrong database that I am connecting projects to. So if you're like me and use a lot of different databases for whatever it might be that you're doing, it's helpful to tag the databases depending on what their use case is if you have multiple projects databases. That's not something we did in this video just because you might be confused of like why I labeled it this and not that. So we're gonna grab the right project database, label it, and add teams to it. Of course, the icon for projects, and this roll-up is going to be just like we had for projects, but now we're measuring the progress of teams in completing their projects. So now we click the status, and the same thing, we're going to count the percent group of complete. And we're going to give it the icon and a bar, and we can make this blue. Now one more thing, if you noticed on the home screen, we had a blue box that said Team Project Progress, and this is actually just a formula that we are displaying in the gallery view. And it's quite easy to write, and I'll show you how to do that right now. Team Project Progress, and all it really is style, and then Team Project Progress. We're going to fold it, put it inside of a code block, make it blue, and also give it a blue background. There we go. Just like that. Awesome. So now we have all of our databases set up, and we can go ahead and build the front end out as soon as I remember to put icons on my databases. Here we go. So the first thing we're going to do is not actually build the charts and everything yet. What we're going to do first is build out the views for task and then project management, and then work our way up. So we're going to start at the bottom, and I'm going to leave a couple columns inside of there. We're going to do a linked view of tasks that we just created. I'm going to hide this database tile. Filter by archive is unchecked. And I'm also, of course, going to change this to the hammer icon. And we are going to group this now by the assigned to person. And if there's nobody, obviously, because we haven't created any but tasks to assign anybody, it's going to have this group that says no assigned to, which is a good way to keep track of tasks not falling through the cracks. So we're going to label this tasks overview, check mark, and then we're also going to add a divider in here. Going to flip that and then do a link to view. This time it will be the projects. We'll do new table view. We'll do this first where we label it projects overview. You guessed it, with the hammer icon. And now I'm going to set up the archive so they're always collapsed on the side. Tasks we don't need to see inside of here. And we can display the progress as well as the team and who it's assigned to. And of course we're going to put the icon in for the team just to be a little bit more visually appealing. And then up here, what we're going to do is give it another divider right there. And now we're going to do 2 columns. So we have 2 columns here. We're also going to make this page full width. I have a little bit more room to work here. So this one column on the left-hand side, this is going to be our teams database. And if I put, obviously, teams overview with the correct icon, I always hide these database tiles. And this is how we're going to make that view that you saw in the beginning. So we're going to do gallery view. We're going to do card size small. We're going to not going to wrap all properties. We're going to do page content none. And we'll do this in full page. But we'll delete these here and create an example one. So let's say marketing team, just so you can see how this works. Well, this isn't super marketing, but you get the idea. It's just a team. And I'm going to show you how to get it to display as we did before. So we're going to show the properties of team project progress and then the actual progress in that order so it pops up beneath it like we had before. We're going to collapse this to the left a little bit more, and then here is where we're going to add our charts. And that's essentially how you do it. I'm going to jump back into the main one so we can go over the charts that I've set up, because I could build them out now for you in this way, but since there's no data that we have populated inside of here, it's not going to, nothing is going to appear of the charts, so we'll go back to the other one. But before we do that, we can see how this works here. So if I create a project and then assign tasks to it, task 1, task 2, just create untitled pages. But what that does is you can see the roll up now is displaying the progress of the bar because there are tasks created that are not finished. But if I were to obviously add a done, now this is 100%. So now if I mark this property as done and it's related to the marketing team, now the marketing team's progress is 100%. Now that we're back in the original dashboard with all of the example data built into it, we can build these filters out so you can see exactly what's going on and what that's going to look like with the data, as well as inside of this template, which will be linked in the description. You can grab and start using and modify however you'd like, but each one of these is going to have their own template. So we click inside of this team, we can see the corresponding projects. And like I said before, if you click inside the projects, we can see the corresponding tasks for this project. So each view that I have here is team tasks, so we can see who has the most tasks, what progress are they in, so that way when we're delegating to people, we know who's busy, we know who's not, we know who needs help, and it just gives us a better position of leverage to make decisions from. The way we're doing this is important. You can filter these charts. We're always going to leave unchecked on like we did for everything else, and then inside the actual settings of this chart, we are going to show on the x-axis the count, because we want to see how many tasks each person has, and on the y-axis we're going to show the assigned to, because we want to see who has the most tasks assigned to them at a glance. And then one more thing we're going to do is group it by the option, which is the status option. So that's where you can see these individual layered colors for each person. So not only are we seeing how many tasks each person have, we're seeing how many tasks they have and what status progress are those tasks in. So it's a really helpful way to get all this information at one time. Next we have the task status, and this is essentially looking like a Kanban board, but a visualized one for tasks, because when you look at a task dashboard in a board view with 29 active tasks as we have here, it can get pretty messy. So this can be a good way to know immediately who's blocked. We can see Jane, Lexi, and Mason are blocked right now, so we can go figure out at the bottom here what task that is right here. Eventually Notion will support linking the pages directly that it's referencing here, but for now let's go into the settings. Again, we have the filter on to be unarchived, and on the x-axis we are going to show the status, obviously not started, in progress, blocked, review, and complete. And then on the y-axis we have the count, because we want to see how many tasks are in each status. And then it's again grouped, should show you that if you want to build that out. It's grouped by it's like the inverse of what we had for the team tasks. This is grouped by who is doing the tasks. We can see who's done them, how many are complete. But what's nice about this is it's not going to measure everything inside the database. It's just going to measure what you're filtering by, which has a lot of unique use cases. And then we essentially have a very similar view, but rolling up a level into teams, so we can see how many projects are going on for each team and then what status those projects are in. So if we look into the settings of this chart, on the x-axis we're showing the count, because we want to see how many are in each team. Grouping by the status, so we can see of how many are in each team, what status are those projects in. And on the y-axis we're showing the teams, obviously, because that's what we're grouping by. And then we have a blue color palette on for everything, but honestly that's just for aesthetics. If we're going to do the auto version, it makes a little bit more sense when you're talking about statuses, because they're hooked up to what the status of the color that you chose, like how we chose red for blocked. But it's much more aesthetic to use this, although it's a little bit harder to differentiate. So we're going to move on to the last one, which is essentially just like we had the task one in. As you can see, a very similar view. We're seeing how many projects we have of each status. So we can see there's one blocked project, and we can see that's the marketing team. And then we come down here. Oh, there it is. We can look inside. Okay, what's going on? Oh, this task is blocked. That's a very easy way from a high-level overview to see everything that's going on. And if we want to come here and see how it's set up the exact same way, where on the x-axis we are showing the status by option. Option means we're showing the individual options within each group of statuses. So if we were to pick the group option here, it's just going to show us not started, in progress, and complete, because those are the groups. Like I showed before when I created the block property, that was within the group of in progress. So that's why we have different options there. And I think it's just more useful if we're going to use the statuses we create that are custom to us. And on the y-axis, we're showing count again, because we want to see how many projects are in each status. And then we're grouping by the team, just like we did before, so we can see of not started, what teams are those? Of blocked, what teams are those? So again, this template is going to be in the description for you. You can grab it for free. Feel free to comment any ideas or questions that you might have had, and we can be sure to cover that in a new video. But for now, I hope this helps you manage your teams more effectively in Notion, providing the different levels of views all the way from tasks to just a team overview in a percent form of projects being completed. But subscribe and drop a like on this video for the free template, and there'll be many more coming in the future.